When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. And after that, I suppose it's war. Shiryou Sensen, War of the Dead is a 1989 PC Engine HuCard title developed by Fun Factory and published by Victor Musical Industries, yes, the music company, that combines action role-playing with what we now label survival horror. Speaking of survival horror, this game actually came out several months before Capcom's Famicom classic Sweet Home, which is frequently brought up in conversation as the first survival horror game. But the roots of the genre go back even further, as this PC Engine War of the Dead is actually a port/reimagining of a 1987 MSX2 title of the same name, which is considered by many to be the first real survival horror game. A product of the Dragon Quest RPG boom of the era, the MSX2 original looks and plays quite a bit like Nintendo's Legend of Zelda 2, also an '87 release, with its overworld map and real-time side-scrolling battle segments, though it features more traditional role-playing elements. And instead of the somewhat upbeat, colorful fantasy world of Hyrule, the setting is a dreary, apocalyptic landscape inhabited by zombies, monsters, and all sorts of wonderfully horrible wickedness spawned from some Japanese guy's nightmares. While Flawed, Shiryou Sensen War of the Dead on MSX2 is a really cool game, especially for fans of horror, and has a unique yet often overlooked place in the history of video games. The PC Engine version improves upon the source in many ways, but is sadly a step down in a lot of other areas. The game takes place in Channy's Hill, which has been suddenly plagued by the appearance of demonic beasts wreaking havoc on its once polite society, isolating the small town from the rest of the world. Players take control of Lila Alphon, a member of the Supernatural and Special Weapon Attack Team, or SWAT, a special military squad that deals in the paranormal, whose mission is to investigate and rescue the surviving residents of the besieged town, something the army and her fellow squadmates have apparently failed to do. The story and gameplay are quite similar to the MSX2 version, though the graphics are more colorful as expected, which could be seen as a downgrade as it takes away a bit from the spooky atmosphere. One thing in the original that added to the overall feeling of dread was a day and night cycle, which has been completely scrapped in the PCE game, where it's always sunny, at least on the world map. Lila starts off near a church, the lone safe haven in Channy's Hill, where a couple of survivors are already holed up. Utilizing the shelter as a base of operations, it's up to Lila to travel the treacherous terrain, seeking out anyone who is still breathing and leading them back to the house of worship. The survivors come from all walks of life: politicians, teachers, soldiers, and Lila's fellow SWAT team members. And most of, or perhaps all of their names are nods to popular figures and characters from horror media. To name just a few, there's Carpenter the Priest, an homage to my favorite film director John Carpenter, Steven, Peter, and Fran, as in the original Dawn of the Dead trio, and Cronenberg, based on another great film director obsessed with grossing his audience out. Getting these stranded people to join you is rarely as simple as greeting them and extending a helping hand, and instead requires certain conditions to be met first, such as rescuing another person or completing a series of events beforehand, giving the system a linear, rigid fetch quest kind of feel that was quite common in role-playing titles back then, and maybe even today too. The biggest challenge facing the player in tracking down and escorting these human allies to safety is, of course, the hordes of fiendish enemies on the path, referred to as creatures. Enemy encounters are random and can take place at any location outside of the vicinity of the church, whether it be on the overworld or in buildings. Battles take place on a scrolling arena populated by several creatures, and these segments conclude whenever Lila reaches either end of the screen, regardless of how many enemies remain. There are some pretty creative and horrid monster designs in War of the Dead for PC Engine, but it sadly lacks in variety compared to the MSX2 game, with maybe half the amount of unique creature models. The game relies a lot on palette swaps for more powerful enemies, not uncommon in the era, but disappointing nonetheless. Lila is initially equipped with a combat knife and a pistol, but acquires weapons that pack more of a punch as she discovers new areas and survivors. Ammo is limited and all projectile weapons share from the same ammo pool, with better weapons using up higher amounts per shot. So while the combat knife lacks in power and range, it will be the player's best friend for a large chunk of the game. Downed enemies will drop a predetermined item, which include boxes of bullets that add to the ammo stock, red orbs that replenish player health, called PF for Power Force, green orbs that restore MF, or Mind Force, which we'll talk about in a minute, and blue orbs that increase experience. Collecting enough experience levels up Lila, bolstering her max PF and attack power. Lila's MF will increase via story progression, and is used to temporarily power up her weapons through her special Psychic Sealing Remedy ability. The amount of MF used up depends on the weapon, and using PS Remedy is almost essential when confronting one of the several bosses in the game. Compared to the original War of the Dead, the combat in the PC Engine edition is more fluid and a little more fun. Some weapons didn't carry over from the original, but others have been added, like the flamethrower. The encounter rate for this game is odd. Sometimes there will be a short stretch where you get attacked every step or two, and other times you can travel across the entire overworld map completely battle-free. If you do keep getting into unnecessary fights, you could always walk left or right to escape, usually without much resistance. But at the very least, getting into random battles here is a lot less frustrating than in the MSX2 game, where encounters occur even when standing still. Losing all PF spells certain doom for Lila, Channy's Hill, and the world, so don't die. But really, don't die, because then you'll have to face the true horror of Shiryou Sensen on the PC Engine, its convoluted password system. Just take a look at that. Japanese hiragana, Japanese katakana, Arabic numerals, and Roman characters. And there's no auto-continue after dying, so you have to input your password with every game over screen. This has to rank up there among the most dreadful password systems ever devised. You can get a password for your current game progress at the church, and do it often. Or avoid death completely by keeping your PF at high levels. Aside from red orbs, there are a couple of other ways to restore health. You can't sleep and recover like in the MSX2 game, but returning to church resets PF and MF to max. And what kind of RPG would this be without restorative items? While away from the church, consuming food and applying medkits restores health, and downing tranquilizer pills replenishes MF. Lila starts off with a few of these in her inventory, but they can also be found in one of the few item boxes scattered across town, or received from survivors. Use items often, because if you hoard too many, something very unfortunate will happen, which we'll get to soon. Channy's Hill is a rather sizable area, broken up by a wide lake in the middle and many small rivers that limit exploration in early stages of the game, though Lila will eventually find a raft that allows her to traverse the entirety of the map. To save the remaining survivors of Channy's Hill, uncover the secret paths of the town, and ultimately discover the source of the creature invasion, she'll have to search through all sorts of spooky, deserted locations, such as an ominous castle estate, a frightening graveyard, and the truly horrifying corporate indoctrination center simply known as the public school. As she ventures deeper into creature-infested territory, Lila discovers that all the death and destruction was ultimately the result of human greed, unsurprisingly, which inadvertently reopened an underground portal to the underworld. 6 medallions were created long ago to seal that portal, and it's up to her to find them and succeed in ending the nightmare. And in her quest to find the medallions, she also learns that her involvement in the events taking place in Channy's Hill is no product of mere happenstance. But since this is a short video, you can experience the details yourself by playing the game. Even if you can't read Japanese, an English fan translation made its way to the internet in 2017, allowing a bigger audience to appreciate Lila's trials and tribulations. So despite a few complaints, with its interesting history and creepy backdrop, Shiryou Sensen War of the Dead must be perfect for fans of RPGs, the PC Engine, or horror-themed media, right? Well, no, not really. Sadly, there were some major flaws that hold this one back from greatness, aside from the small grievances already mentioned. The most notorious of these flaws are the experience and item inventory bugs, where if you accumulate over 9,999 experience points or over 14 consumable items, the game breaks. With the former, Lila will essentially level down to 0, causing her PF to become 0 out of 0, meaning any brush with an enemy and it's game over. Collecting too many items will cause their menu icons to vanish, which would have been manageable, but in my playthrough this made the raft disappear completely and I was unable to reach the last dungeon. So reset, spend a couple minutes entering the password, and use up items needlessly to avoid tragedy again. Not annoying at all. A little pink piece of paper is included with the game, supposedly written by Carpenter the Priest, that gives some tips and warns the player of these glitches, but really it's pretty unbelievable that they're even a thing. There are some gruesome sights and sounds in War of the Dead. However, the scariest part of the game is running into either of these bugs. No joke. Worse than even that, however, is that game progression overall is just tedious, requiring a lot of backtracking in the same places over and over again and speaking to NPCs numerous times trying to trigger the next event to open up. It's a game that I can recommend only to the most hardcore or those used to the obviously dated style of RPGs from the 80s. But even then, it may be a struggle to make it to Shiryou Sensen War of the Dead's end credits. Oh wait, there are no end credits. Personally, I'm glad I made it all the way through, but I admit that I did want to give up on a few occasions and almost started rooting for the bad guys to end my misery.
Kill me.
It's still one of the cheaper PC Engine releases, and I think most people can complete it in under 10 hours, much less than that if using a guide. So at the very least, it's not a huge time or monetary commitment for those who think they might want to dabble in the dark arts. A PC-88 port was also developed that is supposedly the best version of the game overall, but it's quite rare, and even if I owned it, I don't have the means to play it, well, at least on original hardware, so I can't really chime in about that one. This game, however, would be the perfect candidate for a modern remake that updates the game system, gameplay, graphics, and sound. I think it would be pretty awesome. That's probably not going to happen, but if Chaniso could survive an invasion from hell, anything's possible, I guess. Anyway, I'm Jimmy Hoppa, thanks for watching and take care. Especially of creatures. Ew.